My name's Scruffy, and I hope you enjoy this segment of the podcast.
And speaking of crying from Sony, we have somebody leaving Sony. I'm sure she was crying about it the entire way she was out.
Yeah, because I think she got kicked.
Because she got fired. Yeah, PlayStation's top exec was fired due to a focus on live service games, apparently. I think you posted this.
Did you not? On a focus?
Oh. Yeah, I feel like so. It's Connie Booth. She's been with PlayStation Gaming for 9 years, I think. Maybe longer. I can't remember exactly.
Maybe how long longer. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But she basically got scapegoated with the direction that a lot of Sony games are wanting to go with the games as a service model, which was something that Jim Ryan.
That's what I was about to say. One thing that I want to point out is Jim Ryan was the original one pushing for games as a service. Like he was the one that was like, that needs to be our direction as PlayStation and as Sony moving forward, because that's going to be the one thing that makes us the most money, essentially. And none of the developers were out for it. Like nobody wanted that, really,
right?
Which is
nobody
crazy
wanted it. And people were upset that games that they were working on, that they were passionate about, were getting canceled for these games as a service projects, like the Last of Us.
Factions. Yeah.
A ton of people in Sony Studios were upset that got canceled for other projects.
Yeah. Well, that didn't even just get canceled. That whole department shut down.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. Connie Booth, head of internal production, so she was overseeing Sony Studios production. It makes sense why she got scapegoated into this, but as far as I know, she was kind of pushing back a little bit against the games as a service model whenever Jim Ryan first introduced it to begin with. I genuinely feel bad for her, and I was watching that in not interview, but that little podcast thing that what's his name? The dude that kind of leaked all of this stuff.
Dave Jaffe, right?
Yeah, Dave Jaffe. Ex Sony developer.
Was he the developer for God of War, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on the God of War team. Yeah. He feels like they shysted her real bad, and
I don't doubt it.
Calling for Phil Spencer to reach out to Connie Booth and give her a position.
I mean, honestly,
awesome.
because he feels she was fired unjustly.
That would be such a fucking power move, though, dude. Like
that would be awesome. Yeah,
come on over. We got a fucking spot for you over here.
Yeah,
that would be crazy, man.
So it's a weird spot to be with both Jim Ryan and Connie Booth, two long-term people on the exit, and this makes me feel like Jim Ryan was ousted. More so than we already assumed that Jim Ryan was ousted.
I think that Jim
makes me feel like Jim Ryan is ousted.
Jim was pushing people out.
Jim was not given an option. I don't think it was you're leaving.
No.
Intentionally, or like you're leaving on your own, or we're having you removed, essentially.
Yeah.
So I mean that's been my opinion for a long time. So
yeah, hopefully we see this as a positive move for Sony Studios. If they are cutting the fat from the games as a service projects, I would like to think they will go back to what Sony does best, which is single player.
Their first title single player games.
Yeah.
And then just let Bungie do.
Honestly, they need to.
Bungie is the only studio you really need to have on games as a service.
True.
Maybe one other one if you really want to go that route.
Wasn't it recently they were saying something about
the whole reason they hired Bungie was for
Bungie was the catalyst for the games as a service catalyst or direction. But honestly, I feel like Bungie needs to haul it back on that games as a service a little bit as well. I feel like they've gone too far, right? I feel like as Sony, as an acquisition for Sony, if I'm looking at that and I'm looking at all of our developers going, hey, we don't want games as a service. Hey, we don't want games as a service. Your player base is saying, hey, we don't like games as a service. We don't like games as a service, right? Would it not be the correct thing and the smartest thing to be like, okay, obviously these people are having a bit of an issue with it. We just acquired Bungie and they're notorious for having terrible games as a service aspects in their games. Like let's dial that back just a little bit, maybe make a little bit more money off of like the games. Like, yeah, we're not going to make as much money because we're losing a little bit of that games as a service aspect from the games, right? But like if your player base is happier with the game and your developers are happier, right? You're going to make a better game. You're going to make a better quality game. You're going to make more. Yeah. You're going to make more money off of that game because people are more willing to spend the money on it. You know, it just, I don't know. It feels like Bungie has been progressively going downhill. Bro. I will probably. I'm going to get fired. Yeah. I'm going to get fired.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what Bungie does with the new project that they're working on. That old game brought new Marathon.
I'm
excited to see what the Marathon project ends up turning into, because that's
I'm curious, man, because like that's such a weird one.
After Destiny.
Wait, what is the Marathon project?
Marathon is that old IP from Bungie. Yeah.
Oh,
we talked about a while ago.
Extraction shooter type.
I forgot about that. Totally. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. I'm really concerned that that's not going to turn out the way that everybody wants it to turn out, but that's just my opinion, just because of Bungie.
I hope for the best, but I'm prepped for the worst.
We'll see.
But that's with Sony Studios overall, because it does seem like they're kind of imploding a little bit, at least they're away from that current model that they were working on. I'm hoping this is going to be changed for the best. But
I feel like they are definitely doing some forceful reorganization.
Yo, did you enjoy this episode of the Patch Notes? You did? Great. Then you should hang out with us live every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But in case you missed us, you can always listen over at anchor.fm/prepatch podcast or any podcast platform at your convenience. This was Scruffy, signing off.